Hello guys, so I'm here to finally share with you a Dragon Age Day 2023 trailer breakdown. In order to do it, I'll have to use screenshots of posts that Bioware shared on their website and refer to other sources, especially the book The Winter Nights. Interestingly enough, without reading Bioware's blog, it's difficult, if not impossible, to understand the trailer and know what to look for, but I can assure you that the developer did not fail to provide some answers and, as always, raise even more questions. Alright, so let me start by playing the full trailer for you.
We fight for everyone, and we always will. The crows rule Antiva.
Glory to the risen gods. They come to deliver this world.
Grey Wardens don't hide in our castle. I won't ask good soldiers to turn tail and run.
All the world will soon share the peace and comfort of my reign.
Let's start the analysis by mentioning that you just saw locations that we'll get to travel to for sure. Right away, I'm also going to point out the most important sentence in the whole post from Dragon Age Day this year. Bioware is encouraging us to listen closely. And if you've already watched my videos in the past, you know that I discovered hidden Eluvian sounds in the trailer and immediately shared this finding on YouTube. It's not, however, the only sounds I discovered. There's more, and since I haven't seen anybody talk about these sounds, I want to make sure to put some focus on them in this video. That aside, let's look at the first scene.
We fight for everyone, and we always will. The crows rule Antiva.
So what you are looking at is a city of Treviso in the nation of Antiva. We already knew from various other pieces of content that we'll be going to Antiva, but we did not know for sure whether we would be going to Treviso or the capital, Antiva city. I'll be discussing more widely the history and the situation of Antiva in the next video, but for now let's focus on what's in front of our eyes. So the scene shows the center of the city of Treviso that, despite not being the capital of Antiva, is the home of the Antivan crows. It seems like a crow will end up being our companion, so it absolutely makes sense that we'll get to visit this place. Now, if you zoom in on this building, you will see that there are Qun banners hanging there. So we'll most likely travel here during the Canary occupation. We already knew that the city was in trouble because a while ago Bioware released a short story called As We Fly that follows a few crows taking down Canary lieutenants in a city ruled by Butcher Datrata. Remember how at the end of the trailer we hear a voice say, "All the world will share the peace and comfort of my reign"? So I would like to prove to you that it's very unlikely for the voice to be someone from the Qun. I'll do it by sharing quotes from the short story. I'm also going to leave a link to the story in the description down below in case you want to read the whole thing. It was released for free. Okay, so as I mentioned, the story shows the situation in Treviso that is under the Canary occupation. The ruler, called the Butcher, uses these magical devices that are installed within the city to bark out orders and brainwash the citizens. They would hear the Butcher say, "Obedience will be rewarded, Treviso. We can lead or we can crash." Or, "Behave, Treviso, and rewards will follow. You want me to remain generous." It's all just a bunch of threats and very aggressive way of speaking, which in my opinion indicates that the mysterious person behind that voice is not a Canary, since they are not really known for personal comforts, they are more known for harsh discipline. Moving on, let's address the Canary occupation. At first, especially after the Trespasser DLC, we thought that the invasion will be one of the main threats of Theras, along with Solas's desire to restore the world of the ancient elves. As we further analyze this trailer, you'll realize that this is either not the last Bioware game, or the game is going to be packed with dozens of threats, and Canary will be just a small part of the DAD story and perhaps far from a major issue. What other issues could we possibly face? Let's listen to the voice in this scene.
We fight for everyone, and we always will. The crows rule Antiva.
You just heard a voice of a crow saying that crows rule Antiva. Just to explain, they do actually rule. The organization consists of 8 talents who are heads of the most powerful families in the nation, and despite Antiva being a monarchy, practically it's a plutocracy, meaning it's ruled by wealthy individuals. All that aside, I'm sure you missed a certain sound while listening to the crow. I'll play it back to you a few times.
Always will. They crow always will. They crow always will. They crow.
Oh yeah, so we listened closely and there's that dangerous screech. Interestingly enough, check out the description for this art released on Dragon Age Day. Ever the pinnacle of mystery and intrigue, the crows watch from the deep shadows of beautiful Antiva. Something, however, is amiss, and they are set on uncovering the source. So since the canary are right there in their face, the screech is not someone possibly screaming because they're getting bullied in the city. Otherwise, the sound would not be implied to be some kind of mystery. It's a different threat, possibly more serious than the invasion. I have 2 theories here. It's either a sound of a darkspawn, and we know from a gameplay leak from a year ago that they will be a major part of the story, or it is a sound of a dragon. Keep in mind this idea of a dragon because I think I'm actually the first one to point out that we see a silhouette of a dragon later in the trailer. So keeping in mind this hidden screech, do you feel too that the crow perhaps is not even talking about fighting the Kyun, but an even bigger threat that involves everyone? She says everyone, and when you think about it, on a regular day, crows don't necessarily care about everyone in Antiva. After all, they are assassins. But if there's a threat that could literally kill everyone, that's what they are gonna focus on, and I don't think that the threat are the canary.
Glory to the risen gods. They come to deliver this world.
Next scene shows Revan, and it's the most difficult of all in this trailer to analyze because we simply don't know much about the situation in this region yet. I think I will hold off with making a video about Revan unless some new comics, books or details come out, because at the moment it's hard to determine what role this region will play in the game. Let me give you an overview of what we do know, however. So you could say that Revan is the opposite of Tevinter in some ways. Unlike Tevinter, they don't believe in accumulating individual wealth, they are more community-oriented, they don't really practice slavery and have good relationships with the elves. The circuit does not really control the mages here, and women are seen as most suitable rulers. The Chantry does hold power in Revan, but mostly in the capital of Dersmoid. Most Revani people are either pantheists or Kyun converts, not Andrastians. If you are wondering how come there are Kyun converts here, it's because in 784 Storm, exalted marches were ended by signing a peace treaty in Lomerin. Canary were supposed to all return to Parvolan that officially became there. However, the treaty was immediately broken simply because a lot of Canary converts remained in the northern city of Kont Ar. To this day, the city is the only peaceful Canary settlement on the continent, and that's why there are so many Canary converts in Revan. Speaking of Kont Ar, from the book Tevinter Nights, we know that Solas attempted to send a Canary dreadnought with explosives on board to the port and have the ship explode, while implicating that a Tevinter Altus mage was responsible. That would naturally cause a massive conflict between the Canary and Tevinter. The Altus mage found out about the plans, got in the way of executing them, and notified a Ben Hasra agent about Dreadwolf's involvement. There is also a connection between this region and the possible storyline in Dragon Age Dreadwolf. Supposedly, Solas ultimately gets a hold of the Red Idol by retrieving it in an auction house on an island of Lomerin, located in the south of Revan, and as we know, the Red Idol is going to play a key role in his plans. Let's take a look at the views in this scene. I'm sure you are wondering why the buildings are destroyed. 2 most likely reasons are that either the city was destroyed during the wars with the Canary, or a dragon came and brought destruction to the settlement. Speaking of the dragons, check out this art that was released on Dragon Age Day this year. The description says, "Upon eastern shores and sun-kissed sands, the Lords of Fortune no longer hold dominion over the coasts of Revan, not when dragons are growing bolder and laying waste to their ships. How come these creatures are back in Revan? So during Steel Age, dragons were driven to an almost complete extinction, mostly by Nevarran dragon hunters. 200 years later, at the end of the Blessed Age, Divine Faustine II witnessed dragons come back to Theras to once again lay devastation. So she decided that the next age would be called the Dragon Age, and she predicted that this upcoming period will come to represent a time of violent and dramatic change for all of Theras. Looking at the events that unfolded a few decades later, we know now that she was absolutely right. Before we proceed any further, I want to mention how the dragons ended up making a comeback. One of the people who contributed to it was Flemeth's daughter, called Yavanna. We get to know her in a comic book series called The Silent Grove. In the comics, Varric, Isabella, and King Alistair attempt to find Alistair's missing father, King Maric, who disappeared at sea and was presumed dead in 925 Dragon. The trio's search leads them to a location in Antiva called the Telari Swamps, and more precisely to a dragon sanctum called the Silent Grove, where Yavanna informs the travelers that the dragons were called here 200 years ago to save them from extinction. The dragons went to sleep and were waiting to be awakened. Yavanna was capable of awakening the high dragons, but not the great dragons, which are considered the most ancient and rare. Maric, following an agreement he made with Flemeth way earlier, was supposed to eventually find Yavanna and help her with her mission. And as a matter of fact, he did awaken the so-called Queen of Dragons. Reason why he could do it is because his ancestor, Calenhad Therain, the first king of Ferelden, drank the blood of a dying great dragon. As a result, his children and grandchildren now have a connection with these creatures. Interestingly, it's the Witch of the Wilds who led Calenhad to the dying dragon. Yavanna also says, great dragon blood is the blood of the world, so I think they will have a key role in Dragon Age Dreadwolf game for many reasons we're probably not even aware of just yet. It's also no coincidence that Mythal, in Flemeth's body, is executing some kind of long-term plan. Take a look at what Bioware wrote in their post. The stage is set. It means that the upcoming events are all planned. Before we move on, I'm going to quickly point out a few more things about the Revan scene. On the shore of this place, there's a skeleton of a fairly large creature. It might be a dead dragon or perhaps a massive dead sea creature like a Cetus that actually supposedly was a creation of Gila-9, an elven goddess who perhaps will make an appearance in the next game. In the concept art from Game Awards in 2020, you can see a female elven goddess on the left. On her horns there are some strings, and I was wondering if these strings are algae tangled in her horns, growing upwards, not downwards, meaning that she's locked and sleeping underwater. Why do I mention Cetus and Gila-9? Because the concept art for the next game suggests we might be fighting this giant boss. I'm not claiming it's the elven goddess herself, but maybe it's a Cetus she possesses or her guardian, the same way how Mythal had a dragon be a guardian of her temple in Dragon Age Inquisition. And there's no better place to fight these creatures than possibly Revan. As you can see, the whole region in the trailer is symbolized by a giant squid, and the voice says, "Glory to the risen gods. They come to deliver this world." So it's tempting to assume that some kind of god will make an appearance here. I want to mention this interesting codex entry about dragon cults in places never touched by the Tevinter Imperium. So for example, Revan. The cults, despite never hearing or learning about the old gods, actually did worship dragons too and often had symbiotic relationships with them. And so we can read, members of a dragon cult live in the same layer as a high dragon, nurturing and protecting its defenseless young. In exchange, the high dragon seemed to permit those cultists to kill a small number of those young in order to feast on draconic blood. That blood is said to have a number of strange long-term effects, including bestowing greater strength and endurance, as well as an increased desire to kill. It may breed insanity as well. Nevarran dragon hunters have said these cultists are incredibly powerful opponents. The voice in the trailer does sound powerful, like a dude who drank or smoked way too much blood. Maybe this scene is from a view from inside of a dragon lair overlooking an old village that used to live symbiotically with a female dragon there. And the man's voice is an old dragon cultist who survived the Canary occupation and is now awaiting the return of his gods, the dragons. The scene does also have two hidden sounds. First one is the sound of rocks moving. And as you can see, the squid is moving some rocks around with the tentacles. The other one is a very distant, almost like gong. To be honest, I'm not even sure if it's actually a gong, but it did make me remember this mission from Dragon Age Origins where you had to hit a gong to call a high dragon.
Grey Wardens don't hide in our castle. I won't ask good soldiers to turn tail and run.
Okay, so this place is Underfell. In no game yet we had a chance to visit this area, despite it being the birthplace of the Grey Wardens, who played a major role in every Dragon Age game. Let me give you a quick description of this kingdom so you have the context for the further analysis I will make. So Underfell is located in the west of Theras. It used to be a part of the Tevinter Imperium, then it became independent for some time, to once again lose that independence to Tevinter and then to the Orlesian Empire, and finally in 165 Divine the Underfells became independent. Orlais left a strong mark on the kingdom by converting it to the teachings of Andraste, and up to this day it's one of the most religious areas in all of Theras. What you saw on the map during the trailer was a massive statue called Our Lady of Underfells. I would like you to remember this statue because it's going to come back later on in the trailer in a very different shape that I don't think anybody noticed yet. What's worth pointing out is that Underfells were extremely affected by the Blights and are up to this day. According to the book Dragon Age Last Flight, Unders are the only non-dwarven people to still fight the Darkspawn on a regular basis, as the creatures keep on regularly reappearing on the surface. Word of Theras, Volume 1, confirms this information as well by stating that the region's people, known as Anders, have been hardened by entire lives at war with Darkspawn. I made maps for you to show you how the Blights actually evolved, so you have a better idea of how much hardship this region went through. So this map shows just the first Blight. It was the one that was the most rough on the population of Theras because it took time for Grey Wardens to come up with the solution to how to kill the Archdemon. That aside, the Blight first started underground and Darkspawn spread all across the Imperium through the use of the deep roads before coming out to the surface. As a result, a lot of dwarven kingdoms stopped existing. For some time, it was assumed that one of the Underfell's kingdoms, called Kal Sharok, was lost to the Darkspawn. It used to be the capital of the Dwarven Empire. However, they made a mysterious comeback in the game and even involved themselves in helping the Inquisition. Not much is known about them, but having been abandoned by Ortsmar, they have very bad relationships with them and don't acknowledge their authority. Now, if you look at the map showing the second, third, fourth, and the fifth Blight, you will see right away that Underfells fell victim to two more Blights. Reason why I want you to look at this map is because it seems like Archdemons are particularly interested in this area of the world. If you take a look at where the fourth Blight started, according to many resources, it started in both Antiva and Underfells, without starting in Tevinter, that is kind of in between of those two locations. Is it a coincidence? I don't think so. Reading through official Dragon Age books, I found interesting report made by a dwarf who was exploring the deep roads around the Storm Coast in Ferelden and fell into a cavern that he soon realized was the Archdemon's prison. It's the only prison revealed in the lore so far, I believe. If you want to read the whole report, I truly recommend it. It's very interesting. Anyway, since the beast was not in the cavern, we know it was one of the old gods that has already been awakened, but no Blight ever started specifically in that location. Even the fifth one surfaced south from the prison. It is therefore fair to assume that archdemons, after awakening, choose carefully which locations to invade on the surface and use the deep roads to travel. That's how during the second blight the archdemon managed to invade 2 different locations at the same time, including the Underfells. From the concept art for Dragon Age Dreadwolf and from the gameplay leaks from last year, we also know that red lyrium is spreading out of control. As we all know, red lyrium is basically a normal lyrium tainted by blight. Okay, here comes the biggest surprise. I'm sure you have not realized that Underfell's ground is dangerously cracking in the trailer. And then, after the scene with Weishaupt, we look at the map again and there's a massive cave-in in the west part of the kingdom. The large statue of Andraste that I told you about either moved or is not standing straight anymore, maybe because it collapsed. Let me show you how the sword from the statue is positioned now versus before. There's also this something here. It looks like red lyrium. Maybe it's even the red lyrium idol. We could draw so many theories here. Bioware's second DLC was focused on tremors and earthquakes, suggesting a possible Titan awakening, possibly even a blighted Titan, which would be a massive boss to defeat. A piece of art was shared on the blog with the following description. To the far west, 3 Grey Wardens patrol the Underfells. Tremors have been creating disturbances of late. Their cause is unknown. Upon the distant horizon, a storm of ominous intent brews and darkens the skies. Another theory I have is that the Underfells are the location of where Elganan physical form is locked in a prison. Currently, it seems quite obvious that Bioware is suggesting there's a strong connection between the old gods and the Evanuris. Remember, I also mentioned to you that I think I'm the first one to realize that the trailer has a silhouette of a dragon in it. I'm gonna show you where it is. Before I do though, I'll mention that I was only able to notice the silhouette while accidentally watching the trailer in 4K. I did not notice it on lower resolution or on my phone, so if you're going to be rewatching the trailer too, make sure you do it on a higher quality screen. Just in case you're not able to see it in my video, I made sure to add a shadow layer on top of where the dragon is. Okay, so there's the dragon, and right away I have to tell you that Elgar'nan is known as the All-Father, God of Vengeance, Wrath and Thunder. Underfells are notoriously dry, so this storm over the fortress is very unusual. Remember the gameplay leaks I also mentioned a few times? We know from the leaks that there will be a dragon at Weishaupt Fortress, and the silhouette I'm pointing out is moving from left to right, and at one point you see a thunder being released in between the clouds. Let's discuss hidden sounds in the scene. As I already explained in the previous video about this trailer, there is a sound of an alluvion before the Underfell scene and after. I can't make this breakdown too long, so I'm leaving you a link to my alluvion video with all the evidence in the description. Basically, I think it's a sign that will be moving around the map using ancient elven mirrors. And we know that there should be alluvions in old god prisons. There's also another sound, and it's a roar that happens as we see the shadow of the dragon, so I think we'll have to fight a creature of epic proportions and power once we are at the fortress. Because of the gameplay leaks, we know that we'll have to get to the Warden Library. The fortress is full of artifacts collected by the Wardens during the Blights, and the library is where the horns of the old god of Andoral are stored, along with the weapons that the Grey Warden Garahel used to deal the final blow to the Archdemon. From various resources, we also know that the library might have important scripts, including locations of the old gods, or perhaps secret details of the ritual performed to prepare tainted blood used for the joining. If you look closely at the scene from Weishaupt, you will also notice this white flag right here. We know that we will have to fight the Darkspawn to get to the fortress, and if you look at the entrance, the doors are covered in red lyrium, but I don't think this white flag is meant to show surrender to the Darkspawn, and certainly not to a possible Titan that would be underground. The flag must be out there to show surrender to a being that is intellectually capable of understanding its meaning. You can also hear the voice say, "Grey Wardens, don't hide in our castle." I want us good soldiers to turn tail and run. So whoever is coming might be after the location or what's stored in it, rather than trying to slaughter the Grey Wardens. Hence the white flag too, which is a sign of surrender when surrender is possible. From the book The World of Theras 1, I also found out an information that powerful artifacts cannot break the rules of common magic and cannot be just brought to the Fate. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that means that with the veil present, artifacts being physical objects should mostly, if not exclusively, exist in the physical realm only. So searching for any items of power will not happen in the Fate, but more likely in locations like the Grey Warden Treasury. Lastly, the trailer takes us back to the map of Theras. We hear a male voice say, "All the world will soon share the peace and comfort of my reign." Then we hear another roar and thunder, same one as the one from Weishaupt, followed by a wolf howling.
All the world will soon share the peace and comfort of my reign.
So all things considered, I kind of want to believe that unless it's the voice of Solas turning into a demon, we're hearing Elgar'nan. Because of how long this video is, I can't really go on another 10 minutes to explain why, so I'm just gonna leave it at that and very soon release another video. I also wanna take some time to share my observations with the Dragon Age community, because I think I uncovered a bunch of details that maybe got overlooked by other content creators, or at least did not really see the light of day that much. Hopefully the community shares some interesting codex entries or ideas to look into. Personally, I took almost 2 weeks of reading to refresh my memory on the lore and catch up on new Bioware content. Like for example, Dragon Age Absolution showing Meredith's comeback. Okay, so thank you very much for watching all the way to the end. If you have any thoughts or ideas to share, I encourage you to leave a comment down below. Very curious to hear your opinions. I'll also make sure to show as many interesting comments as possible in future videos. Alright, that's it for now.